Okay, Shabbat Shalom and welcome back. I did. Shabbat Shalom. Now we're good.
And welcome back.
And welcome back. So it's good to be here with you again. Thanks for joining us this morning. Some of you were here for the class, and now we are going to talk about some of the content that we covered in today's class. Ikavod, the glory is missing. So hopefully everyone was able to follow that class and maybe come up with some questions or comments, rebuttals, whatever it is that strikes you right now. Just let's talk about it. What you think?
I think you were absolutely on the mark.
On the mark.
On the mark with a couple of very interesting points. You know, people in general, how they put it, individuals are very intelligent, reasonable people. But when you get a group of people together and you get some thinking going on, sometimes people go in different directions, you know, as a group. And so when you have something like the Ark of the Covenant, I see how people can go, they start adoring the Ark.
Oh, yeah.
The Ark is the Ark is not what's doing it. It's Jehovah that's doing it. It's not the Ark.
People do that.
He gave you some writings to look at. You're supposed to look at the writings.
Yeah.
Or have somebody read them to you. But you're not supposed to bow down to the stone tablets. That's like having an idol. And they do that with people too.
Yeah, we have a tendency to associate objects with some success. I mean, this is a bad example, but they have baseball players that wear the same socks every week for their game because they feel like this is what's bringing me the victory. Well, it's probably not the socks, right? But
I guess.
I mean, look, I do that with Saints games. I have a certain shirt but I'll know by now that it's not the shirt because sometimes they win, sometimes they don't.
I have certain seasonings I put on my popcorn.
Did he?
Yeah,
There you go.
Old raggedy old looking socks. You look at the thing.
Yeah.
So it's like you're putting your
Game
faith in the object instead of Jehovah?
I think
It's a faith question.
it's a misplaced trust, yeah.
Yeah, you did bring that out
Yeah.
in external.
It's kind of like putting something before, in other words, put nothing before me.
Yeah.
Is what he said.
Well-
And that's maybe unintentional, but
Yeah.
that's what happens.
Interestingly enough, this necklace I'm wearing is green turquoise, copper turquoise, and I was looking it up. And one of the things that people attribute it to is all of these magical abilities, like
Yeah.
healing and
Right.
promoting, different things. And that to me is kind of like, idolatry. Like, oh yeah, if I wear this, then it has the ability to heal, the ability to make me more calm. And,
Yeah. Well, first, it's very nice. I mean, it's very nice,
like
and
it.
it
Thank you.
accentuates your hair. In fact, they were complimenting you on your hair earlier. So,
Dave's got the lighting right, y'all.
Dave, good job, Dave.
makes the white shine.
I got my magic socks.
On the other hand, if it's radioactive and you have cancer, maybe it is a good thing. You know?
Yeah.
Well, the thing about when you look at the Hebrew Bible, we say we follow biblical faith, and I'm not suggesting we don't, but there are various biblical faiths. In other words, we can say we follow an ethical monotheism that's based on the Bible. We can use a lot of descriptors. But when we look back in history, we have certain elements of faith that are no longer there in terms of the external. So to some people, the lack of those suggests that they can't be adequately serving God without a temple or without an ark or without the Urim and the Tumim or without, list a whole lot of things.
So everybody goes searching for Noah's Ark or the Ark of the Covenant or stuff.
Yeah.
What's the term? You got to have a physical representation,
Yeah.
manifestation, or an object of focus.
And just like Ross said, imagine for a second if they actually found the Ark all kinds of people would be flipping out.
Yeah.
There'd be pilgrimages to get to the ark.
I found the ark, it or us.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, I'd wait in a line. I'm not going to say I wouldn't, but
I'd like to look at
You'd
it.
pay?
I'd like to look.
Yeah.
I went and looked at the Dead Sea Scrolls, but that's wasn't to adore them. It was like wow, they found the Dead Sea Scroll. I'd like to look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think the important thing, it's like in Deuteronomy 5:29. Oh, that they had such a heart as this. It's like God's whole purpose, His desire, if you will, has always been that His people would follow His ways. And there are plenty of people who follow the external elements of religion. And the reason this is so much on my mind lately is because I want to make sure, if I sound preachy, I preach to me, and everybody else that logs in happens to hear it. So it's not
The choir.
it's not like I'm saying you need this, you need that.
Yeah.
It's really, we. I mean, this is what the prophets always did, was they brought a message that said, amend your ways and your doings, Meanwhile, the people are going, oh, the temple's so beautiful. Now think about it. They had just gone through the restoration and the reformation of Josiah. I mean, I'm writing my book now, and I'm working on all this material. And so what's important to me is to notice Jeremiah doesn't go in the temple that's in ruins. He goes in the freshly clean, spick and span, everything's right, and the people are thinking, we've got it all in our favor now. And he's saying, look, don't trust in the house. If you put your trust there, matter of fact, go to Shiloh and look at that. Just go look. That's what he wants you to do. He's saying, don't misplace your trust. Twice in Jeremiah it says, Jehovah says, you have forsaken me, the fountain of living waters, and dug for yourself cisterns that can't hold water. You have this false sense of security, this substance that's not really substantive. It's not going to last. So that's the point. I think it's really just suggesting, it's demanding that we fix us. Do the internal thing. It's harder. Look, it'd be easy if we found the right cow. It'd be easy to kill the cow, And I'm not making fun. I'm stressing a point. The external elements are easier than the internal.
I often wonder if because we were given the skills, the capabilities, and then learned and then accumulated knowledge over generations, we have genetic capabilities. It's about the red cow, or the red calf, excuse me. The whole point is, at what point do you say, well, we'll just manufacture one?
They may.
Well, and that's the point. Why are you doing it? Why are you doing it? It's a hamburger on feet.
Yeah,
Betty says the purpose of the external is only to remind us of the internal, and I think it can have that capacity. I think it can do those things, but what it tends to do rather is take away the need in our belief system. We then believe it's being done there by those people, therefore the need is met.
Where do you put your faith in?
Yeah.
What do you put your faith in?
I'm glad Betty,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Betty chimed in. Betty, you had made a comment earlier, and I can't find it now. I didn't write it down. I'm sorry, but there was some discussion about, the glory being missing, how we are in this hiding of the face period. And Betty, you made the statement, correct me if I'm wrong, something about we can still
We just have to look harder.
know
at the statement.
his presence to a degree, even though the hiding of the face is going on. So Betty, would you say it again how you said it, because I don't think I said it the right way.
No, I do think there have always been those. We know from Psalm 37, verse 31, Isaiah 51, verse 7, Psalm 40, verse 8, I believe it is, where it talks about someone having the Torah in their heart. This is not only for a manifestation later. Like some people go, well, I mean, that's going to happen when it happens, you know, because if you look at it that way, you go, well, I'm not there yet. It's not a matter of putting it off or waiting for it to arrive. We are supposed to wait. Though it tarry, wait for it. But at the same time, there are things we can begin to do. And we have evidence in text where if you're chasing after Jehovah, if you're seeking God, we can, in this day and age, in the hiding of the face, we can have that Torah written on the heart. At least in my opinion. I think we can. Now, maybe not to the fullness. You know, maybe not to the fullness that it will one day be.
Right.
Well, I've been questioning this and wondering about this for years on, you know, the Pentecostal movement in the world and, you know, the Great Awakening and the Azusa Street Revival, all these things in Christianity where there was some kind of great change in the people who were there, and it didn't last. It's almost like they experienced something like the Torah being written on their heart,
Yeah.
and then after 3 years, it was like they were fighting amongst themselves and everything. So I question that. Well, I mean, I know in the early 70s, having experienced that born again thing or whatever that changed me, that it's possible to happen. I don't understand it.
Well, probably because we're dealing with matters of divine. So, for instance, the children of Israel, they received this great revelation at Sinai, and then just a very short time later, they're building a golden calf. So it's not something that's a one-time fix-it-all. It requires walking in the way. And I think that's where we need to be focused, is on how do we, you know, like you think of how many Psalms say, create in me a new, you know, it's like Isaiah says, he wakeneth me morning by morning. You know, it's like day by day, we have to get up every day and work towards living a righteous life. It's why we say prayers, you know, when we lie down at night and say, you know, if I've failed you, forgive me. Help me to walk aright and lead a good example in my life. I mean, it's not just a magic fix-all. Like people go, well, I have it written on my heart and now I'm done. No, we're not done. That only enables you then to walk in the way, so to speak.
There's a good gardening analogy there. You know, we can't have a little plot of land and say, okay, I'm gonna wait for God to come grow whatever.
Yeah.
And sit there and wait for it. You know, but no, you have to get your heart right.
We have to plan it.
But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of work
Unless you're
there,
Yule
but-
Gibbons and you can go foraging.
No, I mean, yeah, but
Yeah.
the point is, let's say you do the cultivating and you do all the prep work and everything, and you plant a seed. Well, it's still a miracle. God still has to give you the increase,
Right.
And, you know, and so forth.
Yeah.
It's like, well, the plant come out there. Then I think this what the analogy fits what you were talking about. Then you have weeds come up. Then you have to continually work
Cultivate.
At this.
Good point.
Cultivate.
You can't just sit back and watch it.
Yeah, you got to watch it. Things come steal your fruit and
Whatever,
you know,
yeah.
or your joy or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of people, you know, you see these things in movies and televisions. A lot of people are waiting for clouds to part, sunbeam to shine on you. You know, you have this revelation, and I've got it now.
Yeah.
But, you know, we have everything that was on that tablet and much, much more in the scriptures that are available to all at almost an arm's reach. Certainly, if you have a computer, and even if you don't, the Bibles are all over the place.
Yeah.
You have all that information. You can read it for yourself.
Strong's Concordance.
And so that
Yeah.
putting it on your heart is if like the Ten
Rules
Commandments.
Highway.
Yeah, okay, I read it, I got it. And then you're going through life, and all of a sudden you see somebody that's in trouble. You go, I'm busy. You know, I don't have time for that. Well, did you have it written on your heart? Because that was kind of like one of the commandments
Yeah.
that you just broke because you didn't
What?
you didn't love your
See,
neighbor as
you're
yourself enough to help somebody that was in trouble.
You're stepping on my toes now, John.
Oh, I'm sorry
because
about that.
This is what I struggle with. Like
I don't even have
last
big
week,
feet.
there was this older guy who approached me in the parking lot. Well, I was coming to a stop to get out of the parking lot, and he was, I guess, with his wife in the car, and the hood was up, and he was like, "I'm a Vietnam vet, and I really need some help. Do you have any change for gas?" And I didn't. All I had was some coins. I didn't have any cash, and I couldn't afford to get any cash at that
Yeah.
time. So it's like, what do you do then? Should I have taken my credit card and gone and
No,
you know?
No, if
it's
you
like,
don't,
what
if you can't help, that's
but
different
why did
than
God put him in my path? It's just like
well.
those are the kind
you
of
shouldn't have
things-
made eye contact, Sherry.
I couldn't. Oh, he was very like
I wouldn't-
his
I wouldn't
head
have.
in my window, on the
No,
opposite side.
it's always a
but-
tough question. The
Yeah.
fact that you're asking yourself these questions
I care.
indicates
I
that your heart is
cared.
in the right
That's
place.
the whole
yeah.
thing. You quote the verse, "Creating me a clean heart."
Yeah.
Well, the writer there had the desire to have a clean heart.
Yeah.
He wasn't asking, "I'm not going to do anything here."
Yeah,
I
that's
just,
right.
I just hope I'm going to get a clean. No, creating me a clean heart. That's turning towards God.
That
And when
is.
that happens, God
I have
turns.
a-
towards
Open
you.
my eyes that I can
Yeah.
see opportunities and there are a lot of things.
The ball is in our court.
Yeah.
I think you said
Yeah.
that this morning.
But Sherry, the
It really
difference
is.
there is that you also have an obligation to not be abused or taken
Oh,
advantage of.
no doubt.
And so we have to
No
try
doubt.
and discern with
Right,
everything
right.
that we know
Uh-huh.
what the right thing to do is. And if
Yeah.
you're doing that and you're like, well, I just can't help you,
Yeah.
then that was a good
I gave
decision.
all my pennies.
That's a good decision. Well,
But okay, so the thing that I struggle with, especially lately, is the more we learn about God's ways, His plan, and how it's dependent on, all the people, what is needed to be done in the heart, it just overwhelms me. It's like, how are all of us going to get to this point? How can we possibly all get our hearts right?
Look around. I think it's happening
Yeah.
now. I mean, if you say that, and you often will kind of beat yourself up, I think, because you want us to be. We all do. We want to be there. It's a process. I think somebody said it really is. We're witnessing a major move, if you will,
I see that.
where
I see
people
that.
are turning. They're seeking. They want to know the truth, and they want to know it to live their life accordingly. So I don't see it as a negative enterprise or a negative appraisal of the world around us. Yeah, there are bad things happening, but there's massive amounts of good. And I think that we have to be yielded enough to look for opportunities to plant heaven on earth. And you're not necessarily responsible to grow the whole garden.
Well,
But,
yeah,
we have opportunities in life, and we should work on those. And I think we do. I think most people, this isn't a deal where I'm preaching to people who are living, they're just running, acting wild, and living riotously.
and don't care about God. Or
Yeah,
even
they
believe
do.
in Him.
These people do.
The garden of your heart,
Yeah.
so to speak. Derek's got a good point here. Right on your heart. What does that mean?
Yeah.
And I understand what he's coming from, because I know
Yeah.
him a little bit.
Yeah.
And is that just a slogan?
Yeah.
Or what does that actually mean?
I really do think that it has to do with an internalization. I think of it, not trying to oversimplify it because it's a very deep subject, as you all know, but you have an external, like a showy type religion. I'm going to use the word
Sure,
religion.
sure.
But
An outward.
yeah, it's an
Show.
outward appearance, an
Yeah.
outward show.
Yeah.
But what God is looking for from me and you is an internalization,
Yeah.
one that it's part of our very
Being.
makeup, our being.
Ross, I saw this just yesterday at the nursing home with my mom.
Yeah.
I used to think writing the Torah on your heart had to do with committing it to memory. Okay, memorizing verses, that sort of thing. I'm sure we grew up with that. Write the word on your heart. Mama can't remember anything anymore.
Yeah.
And she doesn't. She's like, what's my name? She's just talking and babbling,
Liz.
but she's talking the things that's been written on her heart.
Yeah.
I want to be a good girl. We don't hate people. I love everybody. These
Yeah.
things that are written on her heart.
Yeah. No, that's good.
And I think that's what you're talking. It's like she's internalized the teachings
Yeah.
and the way to where now I heard her just go on about this, and it was just
Right. Well, that's the thing. It's like we
It
can.
was above memory.
Yeah.
It was beyond
That's
memory.
right. That's right. It does go beyond our mind or our mental capacity. It's our actions come forth from our heart. What's really in our heart, we act on. And now you can put on a show for a certain amount of time, but I don't think it's easy, and I think it's a bit awkward. I think when we really
Probably
have these
tiring.
things, probably is
You'd burn
tiring.
out,
Yeah.
right?
Well, that's very true. I mean, that's kind of something that I experienced when I was in Christianity, as heavy as I was, because you had to put a certain amount of show in front of yourself just to be accepted.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a tough one. I hated it. That's what got me out of it, the hypocrisy that I could internally feel upon myself. It's like,
Yeah.
golly, I'm a fake,
Yeah.
Yeah. Although, it's nothing that I did on purpose, so to speak. But everybody wants to be good in the eyes of their fellow men. That's just a given, hopefully
Yeah.
anyway. But
Some not so much.
Yeah,
well,
those rebels.
I'm
to
gonna
each its own, really. I mean,
I'm gonna say this about writing on the heart, and I don't want to get any hate emails from guys.
you don't
But
want to get what now?
hate emails from guys.
Yeah, okay.
But
What's your
I
email
think
address?
the writing on the heart, I think God's looking for a commitment.
Yeah.
It's like when you commit to somebody in a marriage,
Yeah.
that writing of the heart, you're accepting him. Now, how do you accept him? Well, he says, this is who he is. You read that, this is who I am. And so you commit to that. So that's
Yeah. That's a
you're
good
taking that.
analogy.
It's like,
Because
I
yeah,
now know you,
yeah.
right? That's putting it on your heart, in your mind, and you remember that's everything, those key elements that he said.
Because marriage
There
is
you
a
go.
covenant.
Yeah,
And you enter into that covenant with
Yeah.
your spouse. You enter into that covenant
with your God.
Jehovah.
That's physical manifestation.
That's a
of what we're
commitment.
talking.
That's good, John. I
Yeah.
like that.
I knew the ladies would like that. Like I said, I don't want hate email from the guys
I
for
wasn't
using
listening 'cause I didn't
for
want to
using the
email you.
commitment word.
No, I think it is. I think it is very much a commitment, and in covenant relationship, that's what the new covenant and writing on the heart. It has to do with a covenant, a pact, if you will, an agreement between you and the Creator. And it's in some ways it can be associated with vows that you take. I vow myself this day that I will do these things, and then God says, and because you'll do these things, then I'll do this, this, and this. It's reciprocal. It is a covenant, and I think that that's what's so important. But it's by writing on the heart, by internalizing. It literally means that this becomes part of us, and we're not doing it because of a show. Like you mentioned, hypocrisy. It's funny, this Greek word, James was talking about it on our tour. We're standing in a theater in Israel, an ancient theater, and he was talking about the term,
An actor.
the hypocrite. Was an actor. The Greek word didn't have anything to do with the way we think of hypocrite now, unless you understand what it meant in the ancient world. So when that phrase became very popular in the ancient world, it was you're just acting. You're acting. That's not really you. I know you. I know the real you, and you're
Right.
putting on in front of these people, so therefore you're a hypocrite.
Wow.
And so what we want to avoid is hypocrisy, because that's not being real to God. And he sees it anyway. Remember in Jeremiah, God says, I see what you're doing. You're not putting on a show. Who are you doing this show for? I'm not watching your show. And I'm not fooled by it. I know the real you.
And a sidebar to that too is an instance where what Sherry was talking about earlier, where a man approached you and there was some conversation on the text about that scam artist and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those people will rely on your so-called hypocrisy to get over on you, because they know you have to act a certain way. In other words, they assume you're going to give them, you're going to have a bleeding heart towards them and so forth. And that's some of the dangers of this hypocrisy that I'm talking about. You have a tendency to respond the correct way. Now, I don't know every circumstance, but I'm just trying to throw that out there. Is that you can be scammed if you have.
Well, let me ask you this. I have given to people who've asked of me, knowing that they were scamming me, but not knowing for a fact, but suspecting that they are, but feeling that my giving is just part of someone's asking, I'm going to give. I'm not going to question, judge, or
Yeah.
try to qualify
But
who
it-
I give to.
Part of the Torah being on your heart, so to speak, the words on our heart is people forget wisdom. I mean, there's a lot of wisdom in the Torah. There's a lot
yeah.
of
Well,
and so
I think
it's not
wisdom
just a
comes
matter
from
of being
Jehovah.
a roll over and a kick over and everything.
Understanding, yes, but wisdom, I think that's something that has to come from Jehovah, don't you? I mean, you can't teach
Sure,
wisdom.
sure.
You can't
No,
teach wisdom.
that's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You can't be taught these things. This is something that God gives you, but you still have to want it.
Right,
You
right.
still, I mean,
and seek it.
in other words, what I'm saying
I
is
see
that's
what you're
just
saying.
part of the big picture. The big picture Ross was talking about. I'm just talking about a little piece of it, wisdom and so forth.
Yeah, I think
So-
all these are integral, though.
So
Yeah, they
Ross,
are. They are.
And getting back to the
One leads to
story,
the other.
getting back to the story. Okay, so in what the verses you read today, the scriptures, the ark is leading them into battle. There's a correlation between victory and the ark being with them. And I think we mentioned how we apply this to our lives today is this external things. What are some of the external things that I or you or anyone listening might be putting our faith in, or our, how does this relate?
Well, I think the very interesting thing that I tried to bring out today is that a lot of those external elements that people used to rely on are no longer a part of it. They're not available. And so what we're forced to do now, because we don't have an ark, because we don't have an Urim and a Tumim to go ask questions of, because we don't have a temple, because there's not a functioning priesthood, because there's not this and not that, it puts us in a unique place. It puts us in a place where we have to believe though we've seen not. We have to act in accordance with God's ways, even when we don't see the fulfillment of everything that we think is coming.
See, that's
we're
what I'm
in a good place. A lot of people would consider it, man, I wish we had this, or we heard this, or we saw this sign from heaven. But what's so amazing is that people are giving their life and orienting their every daily breath to living according to a way without the external signs. So in a way, we're in a better place now.
Yeah,
Even internal things like, for example, when I was in charismatic Christianity, you were always hungry, seeking that experience.
Yeah.
and you pretty much, I was just not fulfilled until, I had that experience. And so the walk was just, it was so off balance. It was not founded on truth.
Well, I don't know that we can even be as critical of our former walk because it brought us to this place in a way. I mean, really, what we've been doing, most of us, all along, is we've been looking for truth. We've been searching for reality in everything that we do. We want it to be validated. We have passages that say we'll be blessed, and when we align, we match where we're at with the biblical text, and sometimes we go, well, why this? Why that? Like the people in Joshua 3. They go out to battle and they get their tail beat and they come back and they go, why did that happen?
They have the ark.
And they didn't have it the first time, but they start assessing. How many times have we had something bad happen to us?
Health-wise.
And either we or someone else thinks, or we think they think, or we think, man, I must have something wrong in my life. I'm not saying that's a wrong thought. I think we ought to self-examine. I think we ought to say, why is this happening? Is there something missing in my relationship with my Creator that's caused these things to happen? I think that's healthy. But I also think that we can put our faith in, well, the last time this happened, I did it this way and I got out of it. We start putting God in a box. Or I think faith has to be alive and renewed each day.
Yes.
And I think that those who follow Him, the best we can do is seek to live our life according to His instructions. And because of that, it doesn't mean everything's going to go perfectly well for us. It really doesn't.
Obviously not. I mean, I have to. I was doing this week. I had to keep reminding myself that this is a good place. This earth, this is great. This is it really is.
Yeah.
Because in these days and times, as we get older, it seems like the world's going to Hades in a handbasket.
Yeah.
It's just there's all kinds of weird and strange things.
Bizarre.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, I don't even know what the point is, but I have to but that's what I'm saying. When I reminded myself that this is a great place, and I started doing that with other friends and other people
Reminding
I associate
them.
with, reminding them and having that discussion, things started changing internally in my mind,
Yeah.
at least anyway. I started feeling better about this world in general.
Yeah.
And
That's-
there's hope. There's hope.
I see your point. I was reminded of, there's some older Jewish folks that I knew growing up, and
Okay.
one of the things they would say, if things were going bad, they would say, "Well, at least you got your health."
Yeah.
So the point is, there's something to be thankful for, and you're right. When you listen to all the stuff or see all the stuff that's going on in the world, it's like depressing.
Yeah.
But then you look
Can
and then you look around where we are in our existence. I mean, we're not that far on the map away. And you go, hey, I got water, I got green grass, I got trees, I got plenty to eat, I got clothes to wear.
Yeah.
If things are available, there are people that are bad off, but not as bad as some places, and we can help them. There's a lot to be thankful for.
Yeah.
And when you
It starts looking a little bit better.
and this is not just a psychological thing. It's like self-helping and internally, but actually, when you start having the correct feelings, God created this earth. He said it was good. He said it was very good, and so on and so forth.
Right.
It gave it to us to have free choice and free will to do this thing. But when you get that right attitude, then you actually can do something about it. You can actually be a positive note in this crazy world that we live in. So you can actually do something about it. Versus sitting around going, what's the guy on, woe is me.
Woe is me, being Eeyore.
Eeyore, woe is me. Brr,
We're all gonna die.
we're all gonna die. Well, So,
Yeah.
the God's word written on our heart it becomes a standard, in other words.
Are you
Right.
reading,
It's an automatic
Marines?
thing, it happens,
Well, he gave us those, and to your point, he gave us those things
yeah.
so that we could feel good, because they're right things to do to live. So if we do those
Even in
things,
catastrophic events.
yeah, if we do those things, and more people start doing those things, all of a sudden the world starts becoming a better and better place.
Yeah, it's an act of conscious decision making to plant heaven at opportunities, and that's what we're
And I
supposed to
think
do.
that's what he was trying to say when he came down to the mountain, was that, if you guys do this, your lives will be better.
That was the original story in Genesis. Do what's right.
Yeah. Karina asked a question that basically, do I believe that when Joshua writes upon the stones, was that the fulfillment? And I do believe that it is. He's told, this is what I want you to do by Moses, to write these, and the language is exact for the most part. So, yes, it's a fulfillment of that. That very thing where he's told to write the instruction, the teaching upon these stones. So yes, I do. In fact, that's what I'm working on now, is this idea of what was that Torah? What was that Torah? So I'm all in the middle of these texts right now. In fact, the stuff that we're covering over these weeks is it's a little bit more fresh in my mind than a lot of topics that I teach in other times of the year that I've taught, the last few years, because I'm right in the middle of all this material right now. The Ark of the Covenant and the Torah and putting it on the heart. All these things are part of this project that I'm working on. So, there's more to the Torah than just a set of instructions that we can read and check off. I didn't murder anybody today. I didn't commit adultery in any way.
That you might have in your heart.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, so the question becomes, how internalized, how ingrained has that become? Do I think those thoughts and just don't act on them? Because some people say, I taught on this several weeks ago, some people say as long as you don't do it, you're okay. Like you might have wanted to throat punch somebody, but you didn't. So is that a victory? Or are we not quite where we need to be? And
Depends
I
on what
think
kind of
it's not-
person
we're
you
not-
are. If you would have normally done it and then restrained yourself, well,
that's
that's a little bit of a
progress,
victory.
Yeah.
That's progress.
But, yeah, should we get to the point where we don't even entertain those thoughts?
Yeah.
well, I mean, I guess, let's just take driving in traffic. You
Oh,
ride
yeah.
with me. People pull out in front of you and you murder them in your heart, basically.
That's my big,
So,
y'all.
I've seen
That is my
videos of a
biggest
couple people
downfall.
doing
I
that.
have to repent more in the car
So-
when I'm driving by myself than
Yeah.
anywhere else.
So I'm trying to respond to your
Yeah.
little statement you made. As
Should
far
we
as
get to the point where
we're
not
say
even-
it again?
we're not even,
entertaining
those thoughts or feelings?
You may or
So-
may
so
not
what-
be able to, because it's like,
Yeah,
no matter how hard I try,
yeah.
there are times when I'm in traffic that it doesn't happen, but then I turn around and go, stop it, that's not right.
Yeah, I do that. Well, I do
But
it
the,
all
the point is that, sometimes it's almost a reflex action. It happens so
Yeah,
fast. But
yeah.
but you have the capacity to deal with it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You have the
So-
ammunition to deal
Right.
with it.
My point is, you're driving down the road. I'm using this as an analogy, and it doesn't always fit. But you drive down the road, and somebody does something crazy, and so should you get to a point where it just doesn't bother you anymore? No, I don't. That's the answer is no. You shouldn't get to that point where it just doesn't bother you anymore. That's a neutral thing. What can you do to help be a positive in that?
I can
You
pray
can't-
for
you-
that person.
Well,
Like
no,
when they're messing up, it's
You
like,
can't pull them
"Oh,
over and
Jehovah."
explain to them how to drive. You don't do that either.
I
but-
can pray for him. That poor soul.
Yeah. Look, I'm
No, no.
again,
Yeah,
just so you
the
know,
analogy doesn't fit all the time. I'm
just so you know, I'm not saying that we all have to, that we're all so far off that we're not even close. That's not. I mean,
No.
all
No,
of
no,
us
no.
have those thoughts. Like somebody blows by you and cuts you off, and you're like, I hope to God you get a ticket. You know, I'm not saying
Where's a
that
cop
doesn't
when you
happen.
need
Yeah,
one?
where's a cop when you need one? So I'm not saying that, you know, that's where we need to be, that life just happens and we're walking like through a field of daisies all the time. There's a part of faith that involves making the right decision and doing the right thing, even if you don't feel like.
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting
How many
that that's
times has
wrong.
How many times has that happened?
Yeah.
That
Well-
when you do the right thing and it just miraculously works out right.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but I think it's, I don't see us ever being so automatically programmed that we can't make a wrong. You know, some people go, well, I'll be glad when God takes that bad thought away from me. I'm not suggesting that we'll be robots. But it needs to be such that I think most of us are growing in our faith to this point, that when we have an opportunity to do right or wrong, we choose to do good. We choose to do right. We don't go to the left hand or the right hand. See, that's the idea.
And then too, as you were saying, John, you know, you have these, you autocorrect, you correct yourself, but even further than that, I think it makes me more aware of my Creator. Like, I'll turn to Him when I'm having those bad thoughts or saying those bad words in traffic, and like you say, oh, Jehovah, I'm sorry. You know, I know that's
Sorry
not
about that.
your way,
Sorry
and
about
I shouldn't think that way, or respond
Sorry
that
about
way.
Yeah.
Help me.
So, but
But I have a
Also-
conversation with him too.
also-
so it's
we're made in the image and the likeness of Him.
yeah,
So that to say, well, I'll be glad when God takes this away. Well, we get mad at times, right? We get angry. We say things sometimes that we
regret.
regret or don't, you know, given, you know, when the anger subdues, we might not want to do this. Like, well, let's take a couple of examples. Like, you know what? I'm just going to wipe out these people and start over
Wow.
with you.
Mm-hmm.
You don't think he was mad? He
Yeah.
was mad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So God gets angry. God gets pleased. You know, I mean, we're in His image and likeness.
Yeah.
So we have certain feelings, maybe not as big as His, but
Tammy writes, I think
like that.
writing them on our heart means to understand them. In Proverbs 3, Solomon passes his wisdom to his son, who he is talking to in chapter 3, and says to him to write on the tablet of his heart truth and mercy. We know the king of Israel was to write the Torah himself. Solomon is saying something more than to know them, but to understand them. What is mercy and what is truth? What is the law? How are you merciful and when to be merciful? Giving someone money has to be weighed if this mercy. For someone to continue to beg for money may not be merciful if it is causing them to remain in laziness. Good point. Must have understanding of the situation. Hood up for gas seems strange to me. Just my thoughts. Y'all have a great Shabbat.
Yeah.
So it is this idea of we have to weigh, right? Like you can, look, if any one of us said, I'm never going to pass an opportunity to help ever again, you're going to be destitute. You're going to be, and you might say, well, maybe I'm supposed to be. Well, what if you can't take care of your own wife and children or husband and, you know, whatever. So there has to be some wisdom in there. And to internalize them is really what I'm saying. And her point is saying the same, I
That's
think.
very good, Tammy.
It's
That's
not-
good advice.
we're-
It's a good point.
I don't want to be this automatically, you know, like I don't even have any opportunity to mess up. Like I could, like to get to the place where I'm not going to mess up. I don't think that's what the Bible's describing. I think it is truly trying to say that when these things are internalized, you don't have to go, wait a minute, what do I need to do? I see my neighbor's ox is falling under its burden. Where was that? Deuteronomy.
Yeah.
I think it means, you know what? The right thing to do is,
helping.
like, you don't even look at this. You're like, oh, look, that guy needs some help. Hang on, I'm coming in a minute. I'm doing a TV show right now. I'll be out there in a second. You know, it's like, how do you get it on the inside? That's the point. That's the point.
we were waiting for that stuff. I
Miriam
wouldn't
has
stand
a
a
question
snowball's
about-
chance in a warm place.
Hello.
Hey, look, I'll stop and help anybody do some crazy
Yeah.
stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
John, we really had to spend a lot of time, driving down the road, stop and pick up somebody, help them. But also, I bypass a lot of people that need help. I really do.
Yeah.
I see a lot. I observe. I see needs all over the place.
Right.
I have to
You
know
do what
and
you
have the
can
wisdom
and
discernment
do what you
to-
can't, you know?
Yeah,
That's
I
a
have
good
to-
way to put it.
To do that. I mean,
Yeah.
it's some crazy. It's a crazy world out there.
Yeah.
You know, and you
Yeah,
feel
right.
bad, but if you don't
Well-
have the ability to help, you don't have the
If
ability
you
to
can't
help.
help, or if
Yeah.
you have to weigh this mercy, and we don't know everybody's circumstance. We don't know. I can't, you know.
I wonder how different that battle would have gone if that army had just prayed
Yeah.
instead of waited for the stone tablets.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Might have been different because you remember, I think it was Jeremiah that said to the king right before the destruction of the temple,
Yeah.
if you will get rid of the idols and repent to God, then he'll make your enemy go away.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, basically, the Babylonians,
Yeah.
he'll make it all right. He'll save Jerusalem. He'll save your kingdom. But they had idols all over the place. They were back into, I don't know if that was from just one of those things from one of Jacob's wives that carried all the way through.
Yeah.
Not to mention any names, but
What the Bible did.
yeah. But I mean, the idol worship thing has always been a problem.
It's,
Not always. That's not the right thing to say, but for a lot.
people want to.
A lot.
They want to have something to look at.
God is very patient.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Apparently.
And it's he doesn't want to destroy his people, his place. I mean, none of that. It was always there are consequences to the negative actions and to the disobedience, to the point that, as the writer of Kings puts it, they had reached such a place of degradation that there just wasn't a remedy. It's like, this is ruined. It can't be fixed. You have to. There are times when something is so messed up
Start
that you
over.
just have to start over. Every generation I see we're making in many ways. I think people of faith are moving, towards the right direction. Look around. I mean, really, I see this all over the place. There is an inclination of the heart towards things Hebraic now. But the caution needs to be for us is that when we read the text, that we don't get focused on those external elements which always led them down the wrong path, but rather we focus on, what do I need to do to fix me internally? I think that's the key.
Yeah.
It really comes down to that. And I'm not suggesting we're not doing it. I'm just highlighting that we need to continue to do that. That's the point.
In the context of what you were talking about this morning, in the last several weeks, the Ark of the Covenant, testimonies, the tablets, and so on and so forth. And obviously, we don't have those now. We don't. We don't even know if they still exist on this planet, so to
Yeah.
speak.
But now, today, do we need them?
That's exactly what I was going to say. Do
we
we
need 'em?
need them? And
We got what was on them written down on the pages.
inherently, I believe, if I can understand what Ross is saying, is that those things would be nice to see in the right context.
Yeah.
Of as long as the people don't go to worshiping them, and
Yeah.
depending on those artifacts to help
Like in a
them save
museum,
them,
go and see them in a museum.
save them, and so on and so forth, or worship them, then yeah, we could probably stand to have them.
Yeah.
If that was the
Our
case.
like-
faith needs to be properly placed.
Yeah.
Our trust
That's
needs
true.
to be in.
And you've always said, the verse about faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of Jehovah.
Mm-hmm.
The more we hear,
Yeah.
the more likely we are to make the right decision or action based on faith,
Yeah.
true faith.
Yeah, like our decisions ought to be made on, like Tammy's point, I think. And whenever you learn these things, we should be learning in order to live, not just learning to learn. Like if we're just learning to win at Bible trivia games, that's one level of learning. But if we're learning for the sake of how do I apply this in my daily walk, I think that's the goal.
Yeah,
how do we
yes.
live? And that's the point that's the main thing, So it really requires us to find ways to implement, to plant heaven.
Plant
So
heaven.
how do I keep my truck running at 300,000+ miles? As I check the oil with the hood up every time I put gas in it. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
So one of the things
the point. I mean,
one of the things I've heard a lot over the years is, God, I need you to do this.
yeah.
I need you to fix this for me and to do this and that. Well, most of the time, where we are, we put ourselves.
As a result.
And so
consequence
it
of
hit
our
me one
actions.
day,
Yeah.
a few years ago. God didn't put me here. Why do I expect him to get me out of here?
yeah,
I put me here. I need to get me out of here. Now he'll give me the strength,
And see, that's what I was going to say.
but
There's
I
nothing
need
wong
to.
with asking
But
him.
you
I
need.
know,
It's like
I realize
it's
got
like I
myself
can't
here,
do
but
this,
I need your
Dad. Will
help.
you take care of it for me? Well, after a while, Dad's going to say, "Get up off your dead butt and go do it yourself.
yeah.
You can cut the grass. You can do this. You can do that."
I love the story in Exodus 14 where the children of Israel they're fleeing, they're at the Red Sea. Behind them, the Egyptians are barreling down. And the children of Israel cry out to God. They cry out to Moses and say, help us here. Moses said, stand still and see the salvation of God. And God tells Moses, why do the people cry to me? Tell them to go forward. Think about that. Now that's an seemingly insurmountable obstacle. And how can I?
Right.
And it's almost, to me, I take that as a message. Sometimes yes, God is going to fix certain things, guaranteed. But in the meantime, sometimes we're faced with deep waters in front of us. Sometimes you just have to go through them sometimes, honestly. And
Sometimes you're not going to make it, but you have to do it.
yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking about all those guys, when you say that insurmountable odds, I'm thinking about all those guys years ago, since we just passed that anniversary, that had to hit the beach in Normandy.
Yeah.
They had to
They had
overcome
to.
this evil from generation to generation.
Yeah.
You will have to fight them.
Mm-hmm.
And so they hit that beach in Normandy. Tons of them were slaughtered.
Yeah.
Knowing.
They didn't win, but
Yeah.
they had to do it.
Yeah.
So doesn't necessarily mean
It's all going to work out
it's all going to
perfectly.
work out for you.
Yeah.
It's like one of the sayings that they have a lot in a military group is, you can kill me, but you can't kill us.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, it's definitely a team effort, but individuals are important, and I think that's the thing. With faith, we have an individual aspect, but we have a community aspect. And it's the old rabbinic story of the guy drilling the hole in the boat, and they get on him, and he said, "This is under my seat." No, but it's hooked to the boat I'm sitting in too. So there are both aspects to this, and but I do think. I'm very upbeat about what I see. I really am. I think that, like, a lot of people have a very negative assessment. The world's, in bad shape. And look, there have always been bad things, but see it as an ultimate manifestation, a showdown between good and bad. Look, there are a lot of things that are bad going on, but there's so much good that's going on.
It's a contrast thing.
Yeah,
It really is.
yeah. Sons of light, sons of darkness kind of battle. Think of it that way. When the going gets tough, the tough get going. It's It's a time, I believe, where we individually should be seeking God's help to walk according to his ways. Pray like David, create in me a clean heart. Show me where I err. Don't take your Holy Spirit from me. Those are kind of things we ought to be praying.
Desire a clean heart.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's right.
That's the whole point there. What comes first? The clean heart or the desire for a clean heart? Which one
Yeah.
of those comes first?
Yeah, that's right.
Does one happen just
Maybe,
also I got a clean heart.
maybe,
I'm
yeah.
ready.
Maybe one is on the way. It's being cleaned almost.
Being clean, yeah.
Yeah, so we've got some great tasks in front of us. Next week is Shavuot, and one of the things that I'd like to do is really have people start thinking about, because this season, traditionally it's when the Torah was given, but whether or not it was the exact day that's on the Hebrew calendar or not, there's some debate. But it is a season of recovenanting, making a pact with God. And as evangelical as this might sound, that's what's on my mind right now for next week is, what could I present to you and me that says, let's make that agreement with God next week? During that season in which covenants are so much a part of, look, God can meet us anytime, any place, but there's something special about that particular time of year. So I want you to think this week, do some self-assessment. Like, Dave, I don't need you telling me all my problems, or I don't need to tell Dave all, but we should ask God, help me to identify things in my life that I need to make better. And then come into the season of covenanting with that on our mind. I think that's important. I think it is.
Isn't that why we get married, so our spouse can tell us those things?
Yeah, it could be. That's part of it. Look, and it's not a bad thing to have people tell you. In fact, I was joking. I do want Dave, if you see something, say, man, I really think you need to watch that. We need to help one another, but I mean, do it in love, and don't worry so much about finding fault in other people.
A lot of times it's better to desire. Okay, I'm just going to use myself for example. I know there's areas in my life that I need to be fixed.
Yeah.
But it's not really up to my friends to point that out. Sometimes they won't even see it. It's really up to me to go to my friend and say, look, I need help in this area.
That's a good point.
And then they can help me.
Yeah.
It's always down to trust.
A good sense of accountability among friends is always good.
I usually try to keep my mouth shut when it comes to my friends and their problems.
Yeah.
Unless they approach me and want,
Yeah.
some
That's
help
right.
there in that area. And then I probably go overboard, but
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Good point. So think about covenants. Think about this time of year that we're approaching, and remember, it comes down to, are we living what we're learning? And that's an individual question. I think individually we have to answer that. All of us clearly can use some improvement, no doubt. And then, are we really striving towards that? So think about those things this week. I think today I'd just like to say that's probably about it for today. Have a beautiful week and Shabbat Shalom. And I'd say we do this same time next week.
Yeah.
What do you
Hopefully
say?
the sun is shining wherever you are.
That's right. And if it's not, enjoy the weather that God gave you. So, Shabbat Shalom, Shavua Tov. We will see you here next week, same time, same channel. Shabbat Shalom.
Right. And it's